So I'm going to have that there.
Oh,
All right. So I'm here with Marie. Marie and I have the same U.S. History and World Power course, and I'll be asking her a few questions about her process of coming to George Mason and Northern Virginia in general. So that being said, Marie, are there any noticeable differences between your hometown and the Mason community and Northern Virginia in general that you've come to find?
Oh, thank you for asking. Thank you for having me over. And yes, I am born. I was born and raised in the Czech Republic during the communist regime. Basically, I was 18 when Berlin Wall went down. So I remember a lot. And I live here in the States for about 17 years, in and out, because I'm a spouse of foreign service officer. So we travel a lot around the world, and I'm living within the American communities with expats overseas. But currently, I am in States for 5 consequential years, and that made me also stick with my studies at Mason. What can I say? Yes, it's very different. And I am emphasizing it always when people try to compare Western cultures and European traditions with American Western culture and tradition, because even that we name it the same way, we are different. It's different and it must be respected and taken as is. So the development in Czech Republic, where I am from, is a little bit going as a heritage after the communist regime. People suffer from this, from the consequences of social change and cultural changes, and Americans have their own issues. So I have to say that the most significant change for me here was class structure, strict class structure, who is upper class, who is middle class, who is lower class, racial differences, very strict, because I am coming from culture which is prevailing vanilla culture.
Right, not as, let's say, racially diverse.
No, not racially diverse. So I had to learn how to basically understand that it's the wonderful world of the diversity, and it's absolutely cool, and I totally love it. I like it better than the vanilla fast, I have to say honestly. But it took me some time to understand it and read it, because it was new thing in my life. So these were the biggest differences, the cultural shift. And what helped me to adjust the best way, surprisingly, it was through my children, who went to school in the United States, to elementary school, and I became volunteer parent through PTA.
That's excellent.
That was absolutely the first cultural breakthrough into American society, understanding the principles, values, traditions, and everything. So my children helped me to become
that's wonderful.
Good citizen.
Do you think that, I mean, how do you feel about the way that you have been accepted into the community? Do you think that there is any difficulty there with people maybe accepting your own culture, or the fact that you have these cultural differences and may not view things the same way that they do?
I didn't have any significant problems because I'm a privileged person. I'm white, so I'm white. I am from Europe. My English was good. I had decent education. I came already into the United States with decent education. So I am on the privileged side. So I didn't face any adversities in society, in American society, that I know that other immigrants from other countries have to face. But I have to say that, for example, I spent many years in Czech Republic doing my business career and in private businesses, and my working experience in the Czech Republic, even if it was during the democratic process after the revolution, are not readable by American employers. They basically cannot assess really what I can really do or what I cannot do unless they really employ me. And because they cannot read me, they don't employ me, or they don't offer me the jobs that I am capable to handle. So that's why I actually decided to go to school to get some education within American culture, so I can present myself with some qualities that in combination with my experience, will
Right.
put me in better chance to get jobs that are kind of equivalent what I would be probably doing in my culture, in my
Right.
country.
That's interesting that you bring that up because aside from maybe verbally translating the language and learning certain colloquialisms and slang and stuff like that, and even the structure of the classrooms, you're translating your skill set and your personality and your interests and everything that you did back home into how it's going to apply to your life here,
Absolutely.
which I think that's a very interesting point. Are there Have you had specific difficulties in doing that, whether it's like, let's say, preparing a resume, or what ways have you like translated your ability to other people in general? I mean, you are very vocal in class and explaining your perception and your views and how it's different than what may be taught, and so I see that's one way. But
I'm taking this advantage because I'm like extrovert who is
yes.
verbal extrovert.
Yeah.
So that's again advantage for me that certain things goes easier. But the truth is that when I was trying to apply for any kind of jobs, I was trying to explain what I was doing,
Right.
what I was looking for, what I was doing in past, and what I'm looking for in the employment. And the people, usually the employers, it was kind of strange. They couldn't imagine what it was, how the business can work in post-communist countries.
Right.
And I have to say honestly that the problem is not only that they didn't trust me, but they actually didn't really don't know too much about historically what are the what are the European countries about? What's the history? So
Right.
I met people who were still like blaming me that there's communism there or communist country and the values
Right.
are different, and or maybe didn't trust me,
Right.
like if that I will be maybe too liberal and bring some ideas to their working team and things like that. It was kind of weird sometimes. So I stopped applying for jobs. My husband said, "Well, stop applying for jobs and go to school and learn how to understand Americans, what they want to hear." And it's true that I was this past summer I was working at Office Depot, and the hiring process was kind of like pretty smooth because I was answering the questions that the manager in the store gave me the way what he wants to hear, not what I originally believed myself that I want to present. So I have to match my life to the values of Americans. It's kind of tricky and it's interesting, but it works in the practical life.
Definitely, and the fact that you're aware that you're doing that within yourself, it's an intrapersonal strength that you have to be like, I have to parallel my position, let's say back home, and parallel it to this position and still be that same person you are, but with a different face almost, right? Like when you put on a different change of clothes, it's like I'm this person today where I'm gonna look this way versus when you're in your pajamas, like
Right.
I'm about to go to sleep
Yeah,
versus I'm about to work.
it's kind of the wearing the using the right tools, I would say.
Definitely.
Using the right tools because, as I said at the very beginning, even that we are both Western cultures based on Christianity and certain historical connections,
Yeah.
American continent, and development in the United States is extremely unique and specific and different compared to what and how people live in Europe and what they value in Europe and how they look at things in Europe.
Yeah.
So that must be respected and it must be looked upon if a person like me wants to apply for a job or has some expectations or career visions. I cannot measure America by values, by European values, and vice versa. Americans cannot measure Europeans by American values. Then it's mistake.
On that note, and you're saying with measurement, I know you brought up, religion as a form of measurement to sort of use as a criteria, right? With comparing location and culture and backgrounds.
Absolutely.
What are a couple other like standards, maybe universal standards that you think everybody can sort of conversate on? like religion being one of them, maybe family being another, or like what are other things
Health
that you
insurance.
sort of health insurance?
Health insurance. I have to tell you, I can spend hours and hours with my American girlfriends about how works health insurance and how works healthcare. And I just still cannot get it as a female and mother of two children. I still cannot get it that even high career women have to go work after 3 months of being with their newborn baby and
Right.
putting children in the daycare if they don't have anybody from family or close person to help them with taking care for their babies. This is something in very highly developed world superpower, like incomprehensible.
Right.
Like, why we cannot here in America afford for mothers being 1 year at home with their babies and go through the most crucial part of their growth spur, give them the maximum of the care and the bonding and whatever theories talking about that and practical life confirms. Why we cannot afford it here when whole Europe lives like that? And it's no problem, and they can finance it somehow. And it's not easy to finance it. I know it's a tough job for the governments to mingle it, but they still can do it. And I don't know, it's probably maybe part of the difference that Americans live more like just me, and Europeans are more like in the group. I don't know.
I can completely resonate. Actually, my mom runs a daycare service at the house,
Right.
And for the purpose of being with me, but also I'm an only child, so it was a way for me to socialize with other children. And she still has that going on, so I was very lucky in that sense.
Absolutely.
In one way, I was always with my parents, but in another sense, like I had the ability to spend more time with my mom and be exposed to all sorts of different children of different cultures and backgrounds, and I still have that. So I can resonate with you there.
No, thank you.
Well, we've covered a lot, and thank you so much for being so
Sure.
open and sharing with me your perspectives and experiences, and being so intrapersonal and looking within yourself
No,
and
thank you.
vocalizing that. So I really appreciate that. I think we've covered more than enough, so thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you again.
My pleasure. Good luck with your project.
Thank you. Here, it was
Made it?
still recording. Yeah.
Okay.